What's this? A letter for me.
Welcome to another episode of Remember the Great Sports Through the Mail Thursdays. I'm going to open 3 envelopes here and we're going to see what we got. So, alright. This first one is from Arizona. And it is from former Phoenix Sun, Baltimore Bullet, Leonard Truck Robinson on 1, 2, and a 3rd with Alvin Adams. So I may send Adams that card in the future to ask him to sign it. He actually signed the card twice, which is pretty neat. But I actually sent a 4th card depicting him as a New Orleans Jazz, I believe. However, I did not get that one back. But I guess technically he signed that card twice, so I guess that evens things out. Now, the ironic part is the Jazz card I actually have multiple copies of. So I replaced the card, in my collection already. But if I would have known he wanted to keep one, I would have sent an extra of the Jazz card. But, I'm not complaining. Leonard Robinson was a great basketball player. Arguably should be in the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. And let me tell you a little bit about that. So, Truck Robinson. Why do you think he got the nickname Truck? Well, basically, he was a rebounding machine. He was almost like Dennis Rodman. I mean, he was one of those guys that could pull down 15 to 20 rebounds a game. 15 to 20 a game. That is crazy. And one season, he actually averaged almost 16 rebounds a game, which was arguably probably his best season of his career. Well, Truck played his college basketball, at Tennessee State University. Well, originally, his draft rights were owned by the Phoenix Suns, which is ironic because in the full circle of his basketball career, he would return to the Suns and have some pretty successful seasons. Well, his draft pick rights of the Suns were traded to the Baltimore Bullets or the Washington Bullets at the time. And they selected him in the second round, 24th overall in the 1973 draft. Well, immediately in 1973, Truck became a contributor to the Bullets. Well, Truck played in 76 games his rookie season and averaged, a pretty fair, 5 points a game. Nothing great. But, he didn't get a lot of minutes as they only got about 13 minutes a game. Well, the following year with Washington, he got a little more playing time, getting about 25 minutes a game. And he appeared in 82 games and he averaged just over 10 points a game and 11.5 a game. And his rebounds went up to about 6 a game. Well, the following year with the Bullets, he got even more playing time, up to about 32 minutes a game. And that is when he was traded mid-season because he started to be successful, I guess. And the Atlanta Hawks got him in a trade for Tree Rollins, for the draft pick rights to Tree Rollins. So after the 77 season, he went as a free agent to the New Orleans Jazz. And his first season with New Orleans is arguably probably his best of his career. His minutes sure increased as he actually led the league in minutes played that year for the Jazz and overall in the league. But that was the season that he averaged 15.7 rebounds per contest and 22 points per game. So I would say that the New Orleans Jazz signed a pretty good free agent that year. Well, he followed up the 78-79 season with very similar stats. However, he did not make the All-Star team that year. Well, during that 78-79 season, here's where the full circle comes in. The New Orleans Jazz decided to trade Truck to the Phoenix Suns. So, after his trade to Phoenix, he spent 3.5 years with Phoenix, making his second All-Star team in 1980-81 before the 1982-83 season where he was traded to the New York Knicks. Well, he spent the 82 through 85 seasons with the Knicks in total, playing in roughly 81 games his first season, 65 his next, then only appearing in 2 games in the 84-85 season. So I would guess that probably some injuries probably prevailed his final year in the league and he had to retire. But in total, he played 4 seasons with the Suns, 3 seasons with the Bullets, 3 seasons with the Knicks, 2 seasons with the Jazz, and 1 season with the Atlanta Hawks. Now, I'm going to just step out on a limb here and say the reason that you probably do not know who Leonard Truck Robinson is because of the teams that he played for. If he would have been an LA Laker, if he would have been a Boston Celtic or anybody like that, you're probably looking at a surefire Hall of Famer. But because he was kind of a journeyman, he never really had a home. I mean, I would say Phoenix is probably the most home that he had in his career. I think that's why there's not an identity with Truck Robinson. I mean, he put up numbers, if not comparable, to Dennis Rodman. And Dennis Rodman is a Hall of Famer, no doubt. So he wasn't, of course, as flashy as Dennis Rodman, I would say, causing fights and dyeing his hair or anything like that. But he was a very good player. Well, after he retired, he did do some coaching. He coached for the Sacramento Kings for a period of time as an assistant. And I'm very happy to add Leonard Truck Robinson to my collection. Hopefully one day you will be in the Hall of Fame because you're very deserving to be so. So keeping with the trend, this is another envelope postmark from Phoenix. And it is from another Phoenix Sun all-time great, and that is former Sun point guard, shooting guard Paul Westphal on 1, 2, 3 as his coaching career, and 4 from his USC college basketball days. And Paul Westphal is a 2019 Hall of Fame inductee. He just got into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame this past year in 2019. So, Paul Westphal. Paul Westphal grew up in California, played his college basketball in California for USC, as that card indicates, and I absolutely love those courtside flashback cards. I think that is one of the most beautiful sets to ever, capture some of the greats of the college game. Maybe sometime I'll just do a video on those because that set is just chock full of college greats. And of course, my favorite David Robinson is in the set as well. So I, of course, love the set for that reason as well. But Paul Westphal's in the set, and I think it's like a 33 card set, somewhere in that neighborhood. But we'll talk about that some other time. Well, many of the others that watch my channel probably remember Paul Westphal most famously for being the coach of the Phoenix Suns. And it's not that his career should be overshadowed as a player, but he was the coach of the Phoenix Suns during the Charles Barkley era, KJ era, etc. And these are the same Phoenix Suns that went on to play the Chicago Bulls in the NBA Finals, and that famous NBA Finals with Barkley and Jordan. So he was the head coach of that team. But taking a step back, Paul Westphal was a shooting guard primarily, but he also played point guard. He was originally drafted by the Boston Celtics. Well, at the time that he was drafted, they had the likes of JoJo White and also John Havlicek on their team. So getting playing time at the guard position was pretty difficult at that time in his career. Well, the Boston Celtics decided to trade Westphal to the Phoenix Suns. Well, when he got to Phoenix, he was their starting shooting guard primarily, and that's when his career just took off. He appeared in multiple All-Star games. He was a pure shooter, just a really good all-around basketball player. Well, he spent his career briefly. He was teammates with Truck. Truck was a little bit younger than him. They were only teammates briefly. Well, after Paul Westphal's time with the Suns, he did move on to play for the Seattle Supersonics for a couple seasons. Well, he played for this, actually 1 season, excuse me. After he played the 1 season with the Supersonics, he made his, 5th consecutive All-Star game. He then moved on to the New York Knicks the following year, where he only appeared in 18 games. Well, in 82-83, he made a comeback with the Knicks and appeared in 80 games and averaged just 10 points a game. Well, this is a far cry from what he was averaging with the Phoenix Suns, because with the Suns, he averaged over 20 points a game, like all the years that he was with Phoenix, basically. Well, the Knicks decided to part ways with Westphal after the 82-83 season, and he returned to Phoenix to finish out his career at the age of 33 years old. In total, over his time in the NBA, he played 6 seasons with the Suns. He spent 5 consecutively, then he ended his career there. 3 with the Boston Celtics at the beginning, 2 with the New York Knicks, and 1 with the Seattle Supersonics. And after his playing career, he got into coaching. Well, he started coaching at the collegiate level at a couple universities, colleges down in Arizona, until 1988, when he became the Phoenix Suns assistant coach. Well, from 88 to 92, he was the assistant coach of the Suns. Then from 92 to 95, he was the head coach of the Phoenix Suns, which we talked about right there. Well, after his time with the Suns, he was let go after the 95 season. He did move on to become the Seattle Supersonics coach from 98 to 2000, before they obviously moved away from Seattle. Well, after his time in the NBA, he decided to return back to the college game, and he was the head coach at Pepperdine University in California. Well, after his tenure in the NCAA with Pepperdine, he did return to the NBA as an assistant with the Dallas Mavericks, but then moved on to the Sacramento Kings from 2009 to 2012 as their head coach. Well, as we all know, the Sacramento Kings have not been a real good team during that era, so his time in Sacramento was brief, and then he did become an assistant coach with the Brooklyn Nets. In closing, I think he's still coaching somewhere. I don't think he's with the Nets. I could be incorrect. It doesn't indicate on his Wikipedia page, but I did read somewhere that he is coaching somewhere. I just can't pinpoint where at the moment. But as I mentioned earlier, he is elected to the 2019 class of the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame. His cards are pretty easy to come by from the 90s during his coaching days. However, his cards from his playing days are a little harder to come by now that he's a Hall of Famer. But very common card, right there in the coaching ranks. He had coaching cards for, multiple years in the 90s, so hopefully you can track some of those down if you go through your 90s basketball cards, and you might want to consider sending them out. He is a Hall of Famer. So thank you very much, Mr. Westphal. All right, this next one is postmarked from North Carolina, so it very well could be a race car driver. And it is former North Carolina Tar Heel great and also 2019 Hall of Famer Bobby Jones on 2 of 3. And he didn't sign the third one, which is fine, or he could have kept it, whichever. But he did throw in a testimonial card, not autographed, but he did throw it in, talking about his testimonial with Jesus and God. So very appreciated that you did that. So Bobby Jones, as you can see, was a successful player at North Carolina. He was one of those rare, unique players that was drafted both in the NBA and the ABA drafts. Well, originally, the Houston Rockets drafted Jones with the 5th overall pick in the 1974 draft. However, he chose not to sign with the NBA, which was, kind of a weird thing to think that nowadays, and decided instead to become a pro in the ABA. Standing at 6'9", he was kind of a small forward, power forward type. And he was very successful with the Denver Nuggets of the ABA his first 4 seasons playing as a pro. He was a very good player, appearing on many defensive teams in the ABA. But after the ABA kind of was collapsing, more or less, he chose to join the Philadelphia 76ers. And from 1978 to 1986, he was a mainstay on the Philadelphia 76ers. He was actually on the 1983 championship Sixers team. He won the Sixth Man of the Year award that year for them. In total, he appeared on 8 NBA All-Defensive First Teams, so he was really a good lockdown defender for their best players. And he teamed with Dr. J as forward and small forward on that team. So, again, like I mentioned, also elected to the Hall of Fame this past year with Paul Westphal. I want to thank Mr. Westphal Jones and Mr. Robinson for signing. I really appreciate adding all your autographs to my collection. Thank you very much for joining me for another episode, and I look forward to your comments below. Thanks.